Okay. I'll start and then the comrades will follow on a few areas. The first one is that, yes, this is a clear declaration of war on the SACP by President Zuma. It is quite clear the decision has nothing to strengthen capacity of the state or cabinet. And in any case, he has retained deadwood in that cabinet, people who are laced with corruption, scandals, and so forth, and he's not dealing with them. He's not removing them, who are underperforming, and we've been indicating this, and society in general in South Africa has been raising these matters. And as you know, this reshuffle is actually a decoy. There was no reshuffle actually. The intention was just to remove Comrade Blade. Essentially, that's what Zuma has done. That is why we are reading it clearly. It's an attack on the SACP and will effectively respond back to him as the SACP. And I think it's also important to say the issue about SACP ministers remaining or leaving. We have discussed this before through the Politburo and the Special Central Committee of the SACP. The fact that cabinet doesn't belong to Zuma. We participate in the elections through the alliance as the SACP. We fight together on the trenches with the ANC. We give mandate to a president through a party political system. The President Zuma did not stand on his own as an individual and win elections. It's the ANC-led alliance that won the elections, and we appointed him as president of the ANC and president of the country to process that mandate. Therefore, cabinet does not belong to him. So we're raising this point to also illustrate a bigger question that it is quite clear that President Zuma has also detached himself from the ANC. Many of his actions, ANC leaders can't defend them. From NEC decisions to several others, many platforms, he differs constantly with his own organization. And this is where the major problem is. So we've said, at the moment, we'll further make consultations with our structures. We are trying to convene an urgent meeting of the Politburo that will extend to all members of our Central Committee, and will then take a final decision from that particular moment. But at the current time, we have decided that they must remain where they are and serve the interests of the people of South Africa, not the interests of Zuma. National cabinet, a national executive or cabinet is not necessarily a small team of Zuma's people. I think we will give an effective response to that effect when a bigger forum of the SACP meets. We will also decide in that particular meeting whether Comrade Blade remains in Parliament or he comes back to the party headquarters. Because it's also important to take note that even when we send him to Parliament, it was a decision of the SACP. And we had a discussion with the ANC in this regard. And therefore, when Zuma does this without consulting us, this is quite clear what was his intention. So we'll discuss that particular matter. But Comrade Blade is the leader of the Communist Party. He's welcome to come back to the party headquarters. In fact, it will free us, give us more space. He has huge capacities. We'll love to have him back at the HQ. But that's a decision that our structures will decide, the extended Politburo that we are convening to decide on what should happen. Well, as per the issue regarding whether he did inform the SACP, he did not. Only when the statement was released did he manage to make call with Comrade Blade to inform him that he has taken this particular decision, when it was already in the media. This is an act of provocation. And we want to thank Comrade Blade for remaining calm and making sure that he sustained the integrity of our alliance and not respond to him, and still give him courtesy as leader of our movement. That is why the ANC itself must appreciate that perhaps not many of us will remain calm under the circumstances when provoked in this manner, like what President Zuma does. And therefore, it's a matter that the ANC itself must deeply consider and engage with, because President Zuma doesn't listen to anyone anymore. In fact, if you like, and I know I'll be attacked for this, but I must say, you know, when someone is delusional, he has no sense of reason. And sometimes you feel some of his decisions are bordering on that framework. And I think that on the basis of this, it does change or impact on alliance relations, this kind of decision. That is why we're raising it clearly in the statement, that there will definitely be wider implications for this kind of ignorant actions or calculated factional actions that have no regard for the unity of the alliance. You don't build unity of the alliance in the manner that President Zuma does. On the contrary, it is also important to note that criticism is an important pillar of forms of our organization, including constructive criticism. And President Zuma has never accepted constructive criticism. He has taken any criticism as an attack. That is why there's no revolution in the whole world that can allow a runaway president in this form that sells his own country to the highest bidders, to friends all over the world, at the expense of the people of his own country. So no self-respecting organization should actually even allow that thing to happen. That is why we will definitely intensify our action. Our call remains that President Zuma primarily should step down instead of making these factional interventions that he makes through cabinet, and trying to retain only those people that he has a sense of control and patronage effect on him. And we know he can't do that to the Communist Party. Sorry, we can tell him that he can't succeed in doing that. That is why, if he's going to work with us in any form in alliance, he will find very honest comrades, robust comrades, who will engage with him constructively in the interest of building our movement and our revolution. Will not be allowed to be cajoled and be controlled by petty personal interest of the president, just because he has the prerogative as President of the Republic to remove ministers from cabinet.
Thank you, Comrade Soli. There is this other additions. Just to remind you of the remaining questions. What's going to take the SACP to walk away from the alliance? Yes.
Just a bit.
Thank you.
Just wanted to add on what the First Deputy General Secretary said, as an emphasis that members of the SACP who are in the cabinet will be guided by the structures of the SACP, the Politburo and the Central Committee, as he has indicated that those structures will meet. So it's not individual decisions, but also remember this is a decision which has just been taken a few hours ago, and a lot of our structures are still dealing with it, and even some of them have not heard about that. Well, the issue of the alliance, well, our view is very simple. This alliance does not belong to an individual. It's an alliance of organizations. We will definitely have to sit and deal with these issues, these organizational issues, as they confront us, and take a way forward. Of course, as the Deputy General Secretary has indicated, there's a serious strain as we speak at the moment, if a leader of the alliance can just be removed like that. But we won't allow an alliance to collapse because of this. It's an alliance of organizations, not of individuals. Individuals in any organization come and go.
Thank you very much, Comrade Tulas. Let me
Before
take
that, the issue about what will it take for us to leave.
Okay.
No, let me just add that we have already drawn the line as the SACP about what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. Firstly, it is not acceptable for any leader of our movement, for who occupies any political authority in whatever form, to undermine our constitution, South Africa's constitution. It's not a socialist constitution, but at least it lays an important framework for us to transform our country. And we subscribe to that particular constitution as the SACP. So if there's constant undermining and violation of the constitution, we will speak out, as we have done. If there is support, wittingly or unwittingly, or sometimes looking away from acts of corruption, we will speak out, as we have done, as the SACP. We have drawn the line on those. If there's allowance of state capture by a cohort of individuals, business people, and so forth, who are related to the president or anybody who has authority in any sections of our governance, we will speak out as the SACP. We have drawn the lines on those. And we have put up these matters, even to our alliance, to indicate that we are extremely unhappy about the fact that comrades who are even implicated in particular, say, the Gupta emails, instead of action being taken against them, they are being rewarded. And therefore, this is an unacceptable behavior of a movement that is expected to espouse higher values of accountability, of respect for the people, of ethical behavior, of moral highness. But what we see is political and moral decay under Zuma's watch. And we've raised these matters quite clearly. But we're also taking into account the point that Comrade Thulas is raising, which is another very important point, that this alliance is not just about individuals. It's an organizational alliance, an interclass alliance as well. And therefore, to resolve its challenges, it's a protracted and complex process. But when it involves basically disregard for basic norms and values of our movement, that's where we take serious exception. That is why ultimately, when we could not take it any longer, despite many attempts for engagements with the alliance components, particularly with the ANC, we ended up making the call that President Zuma should step down, because we could feel that evidence was there that indicates that he is the main facilitator of the concept of capture of the state. And I agree with this comment that is made that actually the entire project is to strengthen the capacity to capture our state. And South Africa must rise up and reject this attitude. That is why we have drawn the line in that case and will not accept it going forward.
Let me get back to the issue of moving away from cabinet, which you are asking and what you are hoping to achieve. I actually thought it was much clearer when the comrades were indicating that it's not an individual person's cabinet or government. There is an involvement of an alliance in terms of working on this. In the past, yes, of course, there were also moves that the party comrades might move away, but when the thorough discussion took place, everybody realized that there's nothing wrong that those comrades have done. They must continue to serve the country. And therefore, that is why we can't say they must move away. People who must move away from cabinet are the ones who are messing up. So if they haven't messed up, that was the discussion. We are still going to put this discussion before the special PB and find out if is that still the case. But the issue here is that it's not an individual or a personal cabinet for anybody. And therefore, if comrades are put there, we don't see that they should just walk away. They should continue to serve the people of this country, so long as they're doing that diligently. The problem is that if they're not doing that, contrary to that, then that's another problem. Okay, can I just leave other questions to other comrades?
Thank you, Comrade Joyce.
Chris? No.
Okay.
Chris?
No, the issue of trying to say Comrade Blade as an NEC member, are we going to be calling for him to go and push for the removal of the president? Comrade Blade is an ANC member in his own right. Not that he's just representing there the Communist Party. He's an NEC member, he's an ANC member. There are a number of other communists who are also ANC members in their own right, including myself, in the NEC of the ANC. The issue of what should happen to the president, that will be a discussion of the NEC of the ANC, if there is such a discussion. But there will be no message to say go into 1, 2, 3 in the NEC. But the Communist Party on its own takes its own decisions and declares what has to happen and takes its own campaigns. It is that it has already pronounced. So whoever goes into the ANC NEC, they go there as ANC members in their own right.
What does common base recall mean for the Peace Commission? The top six of the ANC was informed yesterday. That question remains unanswered. The Secretariat meeting planning for the Alliance Political Council, the reason why Blade Nzimande was removed as the Deputy Minister and the President.
In reaction to the SACP.
Yeah, okay.
In reaction to the Supreme Court of Appeal court judgment.
Okay, let's say this so that there's clarity, maybe on emphasis. That one, we want these comrades who are in cabinet to continue to hold the fort and fight against corruption, understanding that cabinet is driven on a platform of or a framework of secrecy, but they must not use secrecy to condone corrupt activities. They must object to anything and be recorded objecting to that, particularly when they feel there's something that is not so clear within our rules. So they must remain and hold the fort, but must also understand that cabinet is also a terrain of struggle. There are many interests there, and therefore they must remain there and represent the interests of the working class and the poor of our country. So it's important that they remain there. The question of staying in the alliance has a mission to transform South Africa into a democratic, prosperous, non-racial, non-sexist society, and to also deal with three fundamental contradictions that afflict us today: the inequality of our people through class, that is by the means of where they belong in society, whether they are workers or they own the means of production or businesses, the power relations that are unequal between men and women in the gender struggle, to create equality in that space, and also to create national equality of all South Africans, of whatever color and creed. Therefore, that project is critical that we in the alliance agree on it. And one component of the alliance cannot fulfill that mission. That is why we need each other. That is why even the SACP, in the complex of many challenges and discussions we have had, we have always elevated the whole question of the alliance. If you read the statement of the ANC veterans, the Veterans League at the Durban NGC of the ANC, they address their notion on this question of the alliance. And these are comrades that have spent their entire life in the frontline struggles of our liberation struggle, in the frontline trenches, meant to say. And they indicated that for them, the alliance, it's like one organization, so to speak, because they belonged to all and they found no contradiction in belonging to all and serving the interests of all alliance components. And therefore, it's very important to appreciate the centrality of the alliance to carry out this mission to transform South Africa, in simple terms, to end poverty in this country and create a South Africa that its children can be proud of. As to whether Comrade Gwede, as Secretary General of the ANC, informed Comrade Blade, no, we do not know that. He didn't inform us that. We only knew this morning when we started seeing this thing in the social media, and as a result, we had some discussions.